Methods, experiments, part 2 of 2. Natural/field experiments. Given the limitations of artificial laboratory experiments, interpretivists argue that natural field experiments are a better alternative. Generally speaking, natural field experiments follow the same principles as artificial experiments. However, they do not attempt to control all of the variables, just the independent variables. Instead, let behavior and situations take their natural course. Subjects do not normally know that they are being studied, and hence they should act more naturally, increasing validity. E.g., teacher expectations and the effects of labeling. They wanted to study the effects of labeling within the classroom. They told teachers that one group of students were high flyers, whilst a different group were less able. The groups were in fact of similar ability. Nevertheless, teachers interacted with students according to these labels, and the high flyers achieved higher than the less able group. Colin Bryn and Pat Gay, 1985, Racial Discrimination Experiment. To test the extent of racial discrimination in employment, Brown and Gay sent a white actor and a black actor to the same job interviews to see who was more likely to be offered jobs. The actors were similar in age, gender, qualifications, etc. They also sent out application forms for jobs using the same details apart from changing the ethnicity and names of the supposed applicants. They used the surnames Evans and Patel and found the white applicant was more likely to be offered the job in most cases. J.W. Sissons, 1970, The Paddington Train Station Experiment. Sissons wanted to explore people's perceptions on social class and set up a field experiment in Paddington train station. He dressed an actor as a businessman and then as a labourer and asked him to ask passers-by for directions. More people stopped and gave directions to the businessman. Advantage of field/natural experiments. Natural environment creates high validity. Lessens the Hawthorne effect. Small scale means that fewer subjects are needed. Acknowledges difference between individuals. Removes volunteer bias. Disadvantage of field natural experiments. Cannot control all variables. Unreliable. Ethics, deceit, consent, harm. Cannot be sure which independent variable created which dependent variable. Generally small scale, unrepresentative. Quantitative data, difficult to quantify. The comparative method. As a response to interpretivist criticism of artificial experiments, particularly in religion, to the idea that people are subjective and unpredictable, positivists have developed the comparative method that tries to remove the human element out of the research, yet retains the principles of scientific experiments. This involves the study of two multiple data sets that is similar except for one or two variables. These could involve two groups of people, like in an artificial experiment, however, usually uses official statistics. These similar data sets/groups are compared to see if the different independent variables make any difference. 1897, the suicide. Durkheim's study The Suicide is a famous example of the comparative method in action. He hypothesizes the low levels of social integration was causally linked to the suicide rates, Protestants less integrated than Catholics. After scrutinizing official suicide statistics, he found the key variable was indeed levels of social integration rather than age, sex, ethnicity, etc. Disadvantages of comparative method. Advantages. Avoid artificiality. Historical references/comparisons. Lessens ethical problems such with research. Eliminates the Hawthorne effect. Disadvantages. Cannot control variables. Who compiles the stats? Invalidity. Difficult to pinpoint causal variables, independent variable, dependent variable. Statistics still need to be interpreted. However, it is value-free. Reliable.